Latin America and in the Americas. It is supposed to be Brazil's first step towards the world. So it comes Brazil, then Mecosur, then UNASUR, then Latin America, whatever you call it, then the hemisphere and the rest. Mecosur was founded in 1991. It is made up of 4 members still. The Andean community is the other important bloc in South America. It was founded much before. It didn't work quite well. There were countries coming and going, Chile and Venezuela especially. And look at this. Brazil is not here. I think it was not there also in the Central American common market. Not even Mexico is here. It is here in UNASUR, a new organization, not exactly regional integration, but a regional organization that brings together 12 countries, 4 official languages. Portuguese, Spanish, English, and Dutch, because Suriname and Guyana are in, so this is not exactly Latin America. And then you have the Bolivarian Alliance for the Americas, for the peoples of our America, 8 countries. The most interesting thing about this regional organization is that it is not regional. Not even one member country has a common border with other member countries. And this is the more recent Pacific Alliance Agreement. There is a big country here. The 3 largest countries in Latin America are Brazil, Mexico, and Argentina. Well, it was traditional. Now Colombia has overcome Argentina as regards demography. Brazil is not here. Mexico is back in. Mexico is also in NAFTA, an important trade bloc made of Mexico, the States, and Canada. And this is the new community of Latin American and Caribbean states. It does not really exist, really. There was supposed to be a founding meeting in Caracas, but then Chavez got sick and it was suspended without a schedule. So the idea was for Brazil to redefine its region as South America rather than Latin America, because Latin America was not manageable. Latin America was much larger than Brazil could handle. So Mexico was out, Central America was out, and all the rest was in, within its orbit of influence. But then Venezuela was making trouble and Mexico tried to opt in, so this is a new kind of region in construction. The important thing about most of these regions is that, not most, but many of them do not really have headquarters or telephone or a secretariat. Except for 3 of them, Central American common markets, the Andean community and Mecosur, there are no supranational features in any way. So how do we compare Latin American integration with Europe? As before, compare the continents, not the blocks. The European Union fits twice into Brazil, with a little bit of Romania outside. And then it fits 4 times into South America and 5 times into Latin America. So size matters. Not just because geography, but also because most people in Europe live in the borders, while most people in South America live in on the shores. So they don't have daily interactions. The borders are not really alive. Regarding specifically Mecosur, let's go forward with a comparison. We all know that there are 27 members in the European Union, but the axis is Franco-German. Without Germany or France, there would be no European Union. But what would you say if we take just Germany, the Netherlands, Latvia, and Estonia and try to make a regional bloc out of them? Because this is exactly the demographic proportion in Mecosur. If Venezuela would ever come into Mecosur, it would be like kind of Greece, not just demographically, Colombia also. Then the situation is inverted as regards the economy, because Argentina and Uruguay have higher GDP than Brazil and Paraguay, and still the smaller countries ask Brazil for money in order to legitimize its preeminence. But this is much like Portugal giving money to Luxembourg. Luxembourg is smaller than Portugal, but it's much richer, and still Brazilians are supposed to pour money to Uruguay in order for Uruguay to accept the organization, the internal organization. I will now refer to an analytical framework developed by Walter Martley. I will just add one dimension because he speaks of demand and supply of integration. The idea is that there are demand conditions, there are situations in which some transnational transactors need to do things with their neighbors, but those things they have to do have costs. So they ask someone, usually nation states, to reduce those costs. The demand conditions augment with interdependence. The more you do things with your neighbor, the more you need those things to be costless. Supply conditions are usually given by the states. They're supplied by the states at the beginning, because once you start the integration process, you have the Court of Justice in Europe, you have the Commission, you may even have a parliament, you have supranational institutions that provide integration, not just national states. And then there are inertial conditions, that is, institutions. Whenever there are low conditions, low demand conditions, or low supply conditions, we need something to get the movement on, to keep the project alive. So I will just briefly go through the demand, supply, and institutional conditions in Mecosur. The most important proxy for interdependence is trade. It is not the only one. There is investment, social interactions, common threats and opportunities, which were important in the European case, the Soviet threats, the Marshall Plan. But in the case of Mecosur and other blocks, we especially speak of trade. These are the conditions of trade, that is, intra-regional interdependence in several regional blocks worldwide. You have the European Union on top. For the average European country, total trade is done 2/3 with their neighbors. In the case of NAFTA, it's about 50%. In the case of Asia, it's more than 1/3. So this means that for Europe, if the world were to disappear, they would lose just 1/3 of their trade. In the case of Central American Common Market, it's almost 20%. In the case of Mecosur, it's declining. Well, it changes over the crisis, but it's less than 13% right now. In the case of the Andean community, it's 10%. The whole of Latin America, less than 20%. So the world accounts for more than 80% of their trade, and the region for less than 20%. You could say yes, but this is because of the United States, because Mexico and Central America trade with the States more than with their neighbors. This is not so. Also in UNASUR, intra-regional interdependence is less than 20%. So demand conditions are low. Transnational transactors are asking for more trade with China, or with Europe, or with the States, or for more investment in Africa, rather than for more trade with neighbors. What about supply conditions? This has especially to do with the paymaster, the state that pays a disproportionate cost of what it receives. Still, it gains. Just some figures, those involved. This is how much the regional budget accounts for in the European case and in Mecosur. Mecosur does not really have a budget. It has a special fund, which is devoted to some special infrastructure arrangements. But it's not a Mecosur budget, because the Mecosur budget is minimal and it's just contributed in equal parts by each member country. So it's 86,000 million euros yearly in the European case, and just $100 million dollars. And you know that the dollar is not such a strong currency right now. It's much weaker than the euro, even though it may change soon. But how much are regional paymasters contributing to the regional budget? In the case of Germany, it is almost 0.4% of its GDP. In the case of Brazil, it is James Bond, 0.007. I'm not saying this is little for Uruguay and Paraguay, but this is very little for Brazil. As to the other supply conditions, they are always lower, as we could expect in Mecosur than in the European Union. But the thing is that there are no embryo in Mecosur that may allow us to expect that this will change. We should not expect for spillover, because there are no institutions as they were in Europe in 51 and 57. Regarding institutions, not those political institutions as the Commission, who may be pushing forward integration, but those bureaucratic institutions such as the Court that works even though there are no people asking for or supplying integration. Again, some brief figures, those emboldened. The European Union Tribunal issues some 500 rulings per year, but it's unfair to compare a 50-year organization with a 20-year organization. So let's look at the European Union when it was 10, 20 years old. And it was between 30 and 80 rulings per year. In the case of Mecosur, this dispute settlement mechanism has been resorted to 12 times in 20 years, less than one per year. There are other mechanisms through which these countries make decisions and solve their conflicts, especially presidential diplomacy, the red form. It does not always work, but this is the only thing that works when it is needed. So, what's the balance for Mecosur? There are very weak demand conditions because interdependence is low and it's declining in relative terms. It is not declining in absolute terms, but these countries are trading with the world increasingly more than with the region. As to supply conditions, this is more clear even. There are no resources, no budget, there are no supranational agencies, there is only presidential diplomacy. And it is more about speeches than facts. And what about the institutions, as I have said already? There are no regional institutions, really. There are formal regional institutions. There is a parliament. There is a tribunal in Asunción, but they are not working. And they are not supposed to work, especially because they are optional. So, why is this so? We may blame corruption. We may blame incompetence, and this may help. But this is not the answer. The answer is structural conditions. Principally the economy. Economic facts trump political will. If you trade with China, you need for China to lower barriers, not for Bolivia. So national economies are not non-complementary, they never were, but they are outward-oriented, even more now that commodity prices are booming. This is very important. Politicization trumps institutionalization. The European Union was built against politics, against citizens' will. If you had conducted a plebiscite, a referendum in 1950, I doubt that the French would have liked to relinquish sovereignty to the Germans. So, Mecosur was born like this. Mecosur founders, architects looked at the European Union and they liked it. But then they looked at the Andean community and they didn't like it. So, the Andean community has tried to replicate the institutions of the European Union, not the process that led to those institutions. Mecosur went the other way. They tried to gain cruise altitude, and only before they would institutionalize and politicize the process. It went well the first years, and then it became politicized, much like the European Union right now. Then again, form trumps function. If you want to go for a European Union model, you should go the Monet model. So, small steps, not big words. The idea is to build solidarities of facts that generate further demands for integration. If you speak of integration, you generate expectations that are unable to be met by real action. So why they go on talking of integration? First, I should define this. Integration is not about doing things with your neighbors. It is about pooling sovereignty with your neighbors. Integration is about losing the capacity to act alone. Germany is not able to sign a trade treaty with any country in the world. The European Union can do it. France is not able to coin their own currency. It's the European Central Bank. But there is nothing like this in Latin America, except for Mecosur, a little bit. So far they have not signed trade treaties with other countries, but they may in the future as much as the Andean community did. But they go on talking, and this is because there are identity issues behind talking of integration. This is not about interests, and in this case I will disclose my options. I'm kind of neo-functionalist, which are those guys who believe that interests are behind integration, not coaction, not ideals, interests. So the idea is that identity is there, or people in Latin America feel like their neighbors, but they don't need the same as their neighbors, or rather, they need the same as their neighbors, which is to export to China. For others, such as scholars and politicians, this is really a job opportunity. There is a bunch of people making a living out of Mecosur. I even got an invitation to Australia. For politicians, because of these identity issues, because of people, Latin Americans feel Latin American. So they like being taught about Latin American things. So this is rational. There is nothing irrational about talking of integration. Irrational would be to integrate effectively. But is regionalism useful? And I changed the concept. This is not regional integration, but this is regionalism. There is something going on because these countries do things together which are not the pooling of sovereignty. Yes, it is useful, but not for the ends they are telling us. The first one is that it helps. It fosters peace. Peace is helped by the common arena of socialization, dialogue, of coordination, of anticipation of others' moves. Second, it provides a forum for Ecuador, or Paraguay, or Bolivia, smaller states, to continue to be democratic. Third, more important and less known, state unity may be questioned sometimes in Latin America, not in most countries, but in Bolivia, for example, and Philippines. Bolivia is kind of Canada, it could split up sometime in the future. But Brazil and UNASUR are trying to avoid it. And it helps to strong national interests. The national interests of the smaller and the larger countries alike, but especially the largest. Brazil is helped by this thing of regional talk. Although this is not the only case. There are many other countries that are shielded by the regional needs. So, how does the world really see Latin America? So much for regional integration. Questions?
Yeah, I was wondering if you can talk a little bit about the difference between UNASUR and Mecosur, and whether, I know there have been talks about UNASUR replacing Mecosur, but I'm not sure. And also, I think you made a comment about if Venezuela ever joins Mecosur, it would be a madness. I'm wondering why you comment. I'm Venezuelan, by the way, and pro-Chavez. So, that's all.
Okay. Thank you. UNASUR and Mecosur are very different from each other. Mecosur is an agreement of economic complementarity under the umbrella of ALADI, Latin American Integration Association. So Mecosur can only be accessed by the countries that are members of ALADI, 12 countries at the most. This is about trade, it's about the economy. If you look at the treaties of Mecosur, they will tell you that they don't mention the 4 freedoms, as in Europe, but this is about it. The freedom of circulation of trade, of goods and services and capital and labor. This is not really political, and the first time that Chavez applied to Mecosur, he tried to join political Mecosur. So this is well explained in the last book by Andrés, former foreign minister in Brazil. So the Brazilians went there to explain that there was no such thing as political Mecosur. It was a trade bloc. UNASUR is all about politics. It has some different working groups, which are about defense, for example, or infrastructure, but infrastructure, IRSA is set apart. So it's really a political arena, where presidents get together, and ministers get together, and the bureaucracies may get together and get to know each other. They follow different means. There is nothing really economic about UNASUR. It's not a bloc, it's not a trade bloc. And as I said before, it's not strictly Latin American, 4 official languages. As to Venezuela getting into Mecosur, it's all in the hands of the Paraguayan Senate. I was in Paraguay a couple of months ago doing interviews, and it doesn't look like they are going to approve it anytime soon. But this is about domestic politics. This is just about domestic politics. I think that this is also about Venezuelan domestic politics, because Chavez has enough money as to buy some senators in the Paraguayan Congress, and he's not doing so. So I think that he likes being rejected.
There's just a question, because obviously Mecosur is not perfect. I mean, it was supposed to be by now already a customs union. Obviously, it's far from there. It is an imperfect free trade area, if you like. But certainly the changes even in trade, forget about the political aspects which you mentioned at the end of your presentation, which are heavily crucial. I mean, this thing of changing the paradigm between Latin American countries that we had in the 70s and to what we have now, it's from the point of view of stability, security, democracy, it's not a mean achievement. And Mecosur, in my opinion, has played a very crucial role in that. But the thing is, even when you see it from the point of view of trade, obviously the difference between trading between Brazil and Argentina and the other neighbors in the 80s and now, it has changed dramatically. Do you think that if we don't, it would be better off if we would have Mecosur, even from the economic point of view, investments and everything else? I mean, all this cross investments from any of the country members of Mecosur and the other state, when you look at the statistics, and when I get all these things that they approve in every council of Mecosur, I mean, it's a long list of things, and then you come to the conclusion that it seems that in practice there is much less than there is. But when you see to the other the hard figures, they look pretty impressive, really. Particularly when you compare the past.
Yeah. During the first 7 years, 6-7 years, from 91 to 97, it was a golden age for Mecosur, and it tripled in traditional trade. And then it declined. And so far, I don't think the largest countries would be better without Mecosur. And it's already sunk cost, so resolving it would be much costlier than it is to keep it. But Uruguay may be better. Uruguay may be better without Mecosur. Paraguay, well, they have no place to go. They are locked within. But if Uruguay could follow the Chilean way, they would just be a global trade. I don't think they will, because it has costs to leave Mecosur. They would be better off out of Mecosur, but to leave Mecosur has extra costs that they are not able to afford. As for Argentina and Brazil, they will go on doing what they do. They violate the treaties anytime they need to, and then they keep Mecosur on paper.
As the Europeans violated NAFTA.
Yeah, not that much yet. They are going to the next month. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, are there not some geographical or historical reasons, infrastructure reasons for a smaller inter-regional trade between Mecosur countries and Latin American countries as opposed to Europe? If you actually look at all of the integration of the USA projects that are happening at the moment, funded by Benediction,
Brazil.
Yeah, funded by Brazil essentially. We're talking about basic infrastructure that hasn't really occurred until recently. And I know we're talking at different, distances, and you put that up on the screen. That makes sense. We are talking, number one, about different distances and levels of distances, but also just a lack of infrastructure connecting the countries until recently, and hopefully into the future. Would this not have a major impact on the intra-regional trade? Number one. And number two, I suppose the stats are very up and down with Mecosur as well. If you actually look pre-2001 with the economic crisis in Argentina, the collapse, the figures were much higher, I'm sure, than what you've got up there on the screen. The surveillance figures I have somewhere on this hard drive. But yeah, so they have been up and down over the years, those figures. But wouldn't you expect intra-regional trade to increase if the infrastructure is put in place? Sorry, a very long question.
Good point. No. This was the idea behind Brazilians' move towards UNASUR. It was not called UNASUR by then, in 2000. It was South America. Fernando Henrique also called the meeting in Brasilia. And then it all started. The idea was that intra-regional trade was not growing any longer, not because of tariff barriers, but of geographical and infrastructure barriers. There were no bridges, no roads, no railways, and no energy interconnection. So the idea was to build this infrastructure in order to foster regional interdependence. And they did, kind of. But the thing is that the industrial capital of Brazil is located here, in Sao Paulo, 40 million people, just like Argentina, and larger GDP. So when they have to export, they go through these ports here. They don't need to cross all the hinterland of South America through the Andes, 6,000 meters of altitude, through the Amazonia. It's much more expensive to do that way, even though they are building some bridges and roads through the Andes. But Brazil is still an Atlantic country, and I think it will still be if they do not decide to go conquer the neighbors. I don't think they will. But the thing is, yes, infrastructure was limiting interregional trade, interregional interaction. So they went on to build some infrastructure. But still, when I mentioned Mecosur 13%, for Brazil it is 10%. 90% the rest of the world, 10% Mecosur, because Brazil is an industrial power that exports mainly soybean and iron ore commodities to China. So the economy of Brazil has pre-commoditized, could you translate? Pre-commoditized? Pre-commoditized.
Back to commodities or?
It's back to commodities. Back to commodities. Since 1979, they were exporting more industrial production than commodities. Now they are, again, exporting more commodities than industrial production. And they are not exporting these commodities to the neighbors.
But that's the point you missed in your analysis that needs to go in. Because to put the gross, the percentage of trade in Mecosur as a percentage of total Brazilian trade or Argentine trade is a bit misleading, because just on weight volume it may not have changed, but you have that incredible spike in commodity prices. So that's going to automatically skew the numbers. And then the second aspect that's really important on the economic questions, on the inter-regional trades, what are they trading? So what percentage of your manufacturers are going within each?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have to be a little careful with the big numbers.
So, yet your book with Felipe Schmidt says that Mecosur is probably the second most successful integration bloc in terms of.
But we were too young.
In terms of policy, urbanization, in terms of the scope and the range of issues. And these are recent articles, 2010, I think, and the Spanish version of it does not even use the word arguably. So my question is then about global regionalism. How important it is for us as students of international relations?
You know, I work on comparative regional integration, and we're running out of topic. Global regionalism, and this is my personal opinion, is declining. It has peaked already. The best times of regionalism are in the past. So the short-term future is for large powers. I don't know where the middle, but great powers, regional powers, countries, the nation state is back in. Regionalism will still be active as foreign policy, but I will forget about pulling sovereignty.
Yeah. Andrés, I wanted to ask you a question about Uruguay, because you said very good, lots of uncertainty that Mercosur Uruguay would be better off outside Mercosur. And you know, when the government announced that it was going to negotiate a free trade agreement with the US, it had to back down. And it kind of ended up in a negotiation of an economic complementary agreement, very watered down from the initial intent. So Uruguay is getting stuck with the bad and not having access to the good. And I was wondering if you could make a comment on how you see it from Uruguay, because I failed to see how they see Mercosur right now.
The smaller the country, the more important Mercosur is. Mercosur is more present in Uruguay political speech than in Brazilian political speech. Uruguayans would like to say like Chileans do. We have a nice house in a bad neighborhood. They think so, they don't tell you. The thing is that it could be more convenient for them to go out of Mecosur or to work other arrangements or agreements out of Mecosur, but they did not sign that agreement with the states. They did something on investments, but they did not go for a trade agreement, not just because Uruguay did not want to. The states didn't want to. They didn't want to hurt or offend Brazil. I talked to some diplomats who told me that Brazil was not interested in challenging Brazil on this. They had nothing to win. But when Argentina was falling down in 2001, 2002, Uruguay received $1,500 that came, million dollars, that came from the United States, not the IMF, not Brazil, not Buenos Aires. So the states are there, helping, supporting, but they are not there to split Mercosur. This is not what ideologists would tell you. They, as the legend goes, the state is against regional integration everywhere in the world. It is not. It's not harmful for them that Uruguay is together with Brazil and Argentina. As to Uruguay, it depends. It has to do with identity and values, very much, and with progressive ideology. You know, for the progressive politicians, integration is good by definition. I do agree that integration was good if Germany was a neighbor, but if Kenya or Uganda are neighbors, it may not be so good. Well, in the case of South America, the quality of the neighbors is still a question.
I was just thinking about Europe and the differences between Europe and Latin America in a sense, and that the European common market and European economic community comes out of, what, 200 years of capitalist development and industrialization, 4 or 5 wars to get to the point where they are right now. And even then, you look at the problem of the monetary difficulties, the currency difficulties that Europe now confronts, and you realize that this is a long, long, long process that is still at work and conditioned by momentary crises in the world, such as we're facing right now. And I'm looking at Latin America, I'd just like your comment on this, on Mecosur specifically, to note that there would be probably 50, 60, 70 million consumers in the middle sectors between Brazil, Uruguay, and Argentina. That's a huge market for local industrialization, provided that the conditions for that industrialization actually takes place. And to the extent, and this is where, of course, you get that wonderful corollary to the dependency argument, that when the metropolis gets caught up in difficulties, the periphery seems to flourish, which is in fact happening now. Why couldn't this be over a long period of time? Because I take absolutely what you've said so far about the difficulties facing Mecosur. But if you see it in this long historical process, is there not something in Mecosur that could yield something along the lines of a long period of time what's happened in Europe? Less violence.
Very quick. I will be blunt. I think that the European Union is a product of the Holocaust. It produced a German anomaly that is about to finish. In the case of Latin America, we were not as lucky, so we should not expect something similar. But the idea is that there may be something to gain from integration, and this is what Sean was talking about. For Brazil, investments. They are buying the region. They are investing in the region. They are lending money to the neighbors in order for the neighbors to hire Brazilian firms in order to build new infrastructure that may be useful for all of them. This is not exactly a public goods provision, because they are also looking at their own interests, and they do well. I don't know whether this convergence of interests will be enough. I don't think so. I think that these countries value sovereignty much more than they value the potential gains from integration.
Okay.